Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving right in to demystify modern web architecture. And to do that, we're going to track the exact split-second journey of a single mouse click. We'll be looking directly under the hood at the no-file-name-page activity code setup. We're going to see exactly how modern web pages manage to update instantly, completely bypassing those annoying loading screens. So, you know that feeling when you click a link on a modern web app and it just feels instant? Almost like you're using a native app on your phone? Contrast that with the clunky, white screen reloads of older websites. In the traditional model, every single click forces the browser to literally throw away the entire page and download a brand new one from scratch. It's heavy, it's slow, and honestly, it's super jarring. But today's web, it relies on something way more elegant. The secret sauce here is a mechanism called a single page application, or SPA for short. Instead of trashing the whole page, an SPA simply rewrites the specific part of the screen that actually needs to change. And today, we're breaking down a really specific piece of source code, a core vanilla JavaScript and PHP setup, to see exactly how this magic happens. Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We'll be hitting 1. The magic of SPAs. 2. The shell, index.php. 3. Intercepting the click. 4. Fetching content asynchronously. And finally, 5. Swapping the view dynamically. Section 1. The magic of SPAs. Before we click anything, we've got to understand the basic architecture of the files we're working with here. And what's really beautiful about this is the pure simplicity. We aren't relying on massive, complex frameworks. The whole thing is handled by just a few files. We've got our primary shell, which is index.php. We have our JavaScript engine, app.js, doing all the heavy lifting. And then we have our content files, home.php, about.php, and contact.php. Notice how we call these content partials? To really wrap your head around this conceptually, think of index.php as a static picture frame hanging on your wall. The partials, like home.php and about.php, those are just the photographs that we swap in and out of that frame. The frame itself never moves. Section 2, the shell, index.php. If you take a look at our index.php file, you'll see it actually does very little in terms of displaying actual content. It essentially acts as the master shell. It houses the overarching user interface that never changes, specifically the main navigation bar with the ID of nav and an entirely empty container with the ID of content. That empty div, that's our picture frame. It's the designated spot where all the dynamic magic is gonna happen. All right, section 3, intercepting the click. Now we get to the really exciting part. What happens the exact microsecond a user actually clicks a navigation link? Well, if we want to stop the browser from doing its standard, clunky, full-page refresh, we first have to figure out how to target the right links. Think about it. You might have some links on your page that you do want to behave normally, like an external link to Wikipedia. So how do we tell our app.js engine which links to hijack and which ones to leave alone? This brilliantly illustrates the answer. Our script specifically listens for clicks only on anchor tags that have a custom HTML attribute called data-spa. Think of this attribute as a little flag waving at our JavaScript engine, basically shouting, "Hey, I'm part of the single-page application, treat me specially." Over in our app.js file, there is an event listener attached to the navigation bar. And here's the exact chronological sequence of what it does when a click happens. First, it detects the click specifically on that data-spa element. Second, it fires off e.preventDefault. Third, it runs a function called ActiveSet. And finally, it triggers loadPartial. Let's break these down because all of this happens in literally milliseconds. Now this single line of code right here, e.prevent_per_default, this is the ultimate hero of the single-page application. It explicitly commands the browser to abort its default behavior. It literally stops the page from refreshing. Without this one line, the whole system fails, and you get that dreaded white flash of a reloading screen. Instantly, after stopping the reload, the script knows it needs to give the user some feedback. The active function grabs the target URL, the href, and updates the user interface. It strips the active styling class from whatever tab was previously highlighted, and it applies it exclusively to the freshly clicked link. This makes the button light up or change color so you instantly feel like your click was actually registered. Section 4. Fetching content asynchronously. So what's next? We've successfully hijacked the click, we stopped the reload, and we updated the UI buttons. Well, our code triggers a custom asynchronous function called loadPartial, passing in the URL of the file we want, like about.php. It uses the modern Fetch API to go off and talk to the server in the background. This is absolutely crucial because it allows the rest of the web page to remain totally interactive while it waits for the server to reply with the requested file. Now, even though this background fetch usually takes just a fraction of a second, our script is highly polished. Inside Load Partial, it immediately adds a loading CSS class to our main content container. This is such a brilliant little UX touch. It might trigger a tiny spinning wheel or maybe a slick fade effect, just letting the user know data's on its way, keeping the whole experience feeling incredibly smooth. Finally, Section 5, Swapping the View Dynamically. Once the server replies back to Load Partial, the JavaScript takes the raw HTML it just grabbed from the partial file, our photograph, and it perfectly slides it right into the inner HTML of our index.php picture frame. It simply overwrites whatever was inside that content div container. And the beautiful part here? Because the page never actually reloaded, direct file names like about.php don't have to be exposed in the browser's URL bar. It keeps the whole application secure and totally seamless. So how does this entire cycle kick off when a user first visits the website? Well, the developers wrapped all this logic inside an IFE, an immediately invoked function expression. This means the second the app.js script loads into the browser, it automatically executes itself. And the very last line of that script manually calls setActive home.php. It forces the home view to load right out of the gate, jump-starting the entire Fluid SPA system without you having to click anything at all. This elegant architecture perfectly solves that clunky page reload problem of the early internet. But it introduces a fascinating new puzzle for you to ponder. If we are hijacking clicks, preventing default browser behavior, and technically staying on the exact same index.php page the entire time, how you think an application handles the user clicking the browser's back button? I mean, the browser history doesn't even know the page actually changed. I'm going to leave you to chew on that architectural challenge. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.